Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Have you or someone you love been a victim of a crime that's still unsolved? Crime Curious has teamed up with one of the top private investigation services in the Indiana and surrounding area. If you have listened to us long enough, you know that we do not seek out services or products that are meaningless to us or hold no real value. So you can trust us when we say that Corbett Investigations comes with decades of experience you won't find anyplace else. Corbett Investigations is run by a former homicide commander of one of the country's most successful homicide units, has put over 400 people in prison for homicide, handled over 1,100 death investigations, and solved 33 cold case murders. To be real with you, Mr. Corbett had a really difficult time telling us what we should highlight in this segment because he does not like to sound like he's bragging. Solving crimes has been his life's passion, and he has never done it for the accolades or recognition. He has a whole team behind his services that help him be so successful, as they specialize in things like blood stain analysis, ballistics, crime scene reconstruction, and forensic pathology, just to name a few. When you contact Corbett Investigations, you talk directly with Tim Corbett. He is hands-on with every case and can travel anywhere that's needed to get the job done. Corbett Investigations prides itself on honesty, truth, feet to the ground, real investigation work, and the strength to stand up to whatever is in the way of solving the crime. Corbett Investigations specializes in complex homicide cases, sex offenses, and criminal investigations that are old and new. Tim and his team have a reputation for finding witnesses and information that others could not. Although we hope none of our listeners ever need private investigation services, if you do, we recommend contacting Corbett Investigations and mention this segment on Crime Curious for a free consultation. Contact Tim Corbett today at 574-229-8115. You can also check them out on Facebook at Corbett Investigative Services, Inc., or their email, tim@tcorbett.org. That's TIM at TCORBETT.org. Thanks for listening, and now on to the show. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan.
We are shaking all of our beautiful good luck charm Gree-Grees that we have.
Trying not to drop it all on the ground.
So many of the things. We have our little field mouse, our positive penis that's over here.
For those of you that aren't Patreons, we're just sorry.
Right. We don't know how we got here.
We do. It's because we have an amazing fan base who likes to send us little trinkets because they know what speaks to our soul, right?
Yes, and what makes us laugh.
Absolutely.
And there is nothing funnier than a penis.
No, we appreciate you, and we're well, it's true. To talk about in general, to look at,
right?
Whatever,
make fun of. It's fine. Oh God, the body anatomy in general is funny.
Oh, it can
be.
It has to be at some point.
Are you ready to hear an old? I'm not. I shouldn't call it old timey.
Oh, you got me so excited for a minute.
Well, it is older. It's 1943. Like it's the 1940s.
Okay.
But you're going to love, this is going to speak to you. This is known as the Masked Marvel murder.
What?
I'm bringing us some old-time Hollywood. It's going to be a great episode.
Okay,
I hope. I mean, watch me talk it up, and then I just deflate. And
the motion pictures in 1940. I'm picturing black and white film and that.
Before I give you the typical case details of how we outline a case here, I want to give you some social background and key factors that play into this mysterious death.
Okay.
And yes, I said mysterious death. We have went through an entire day of recording, and I have given Megan I've only given you one case today with a resolution.
Yeah, there was no murder in that one.
There was not.
Every case that somebody's died today, you have given me no resolution.
I know.
None.
I know. That is the theme for today.
Okay.
So if you're not a Patreon, you really should join because we just, let's see, what time is it? It's almost 5 p.m. on Sunday. I don't know, 7 hours of recording so far
I
that
think
we're
so.
in.
Have we recorded 4 already and this is our 5th, or 3 already and this is our 4th?
Something
I
like that.
don't know. It's something crazy.
I don't know. There's a lot of content, though, we're making up for in our absence. So you should join Patreon. It is in the show notes there. And
Good time to do it.
we're less than a cup of coffee. Come on.
We really are. And if it's Starbucks, like a venti, then it's like way less than that.
Absolutely.
Depending on where you go.
Yes. Some social backgrounds here. On November 6th, 1943, Republic Pictures released The Masked Marvel, which was a 12-chapter film serial story on a hero who wears a business suit and a face mask to hide his identity in his fight against the Japanese saboteur Sakima, Sakima, Sakima.
All right. So we're World War I era.
1943. And his espionage organization. All right. So the Masked Marvel has a hidden identity, but he is fighting Japanese
Enemies of
enemies.
the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Masked Marvel is described as one of a group of special investigators in much the same plot line as like the Lone Ranger. Okay. The most intriguing part of the story, and in a reversal of the common serial masked mystery villain was the stock character theme, all right, is that the identity of the hero is kept secret and not revealed to the audience until the final episode.
Okay.
All right.
I like that.
It was filmed between July 14th and August 18th, 1943. And it starred William Forrest as Martin Crane, Louise Curry as Alice Hamilton, Johnny Arthur was Mura Sakima, and Japanese saboteur, Mura Sakima was the Japanese saboteur, and David Bacon as Bob Barton, the Masked Marvel.
Okay, but we didn't know he was Bob Barton.
We did not know. No.
They're not advertising him as Bob Barton. They're advertising him as the Masked Marvel until we get to the end of the series.
So David Bacon is the real human.
Yes.
That was playing Bob Barton. And you don't find out until the end, the last episode, that Bob Barton was the Masked Marvel.
Okay.
Because it's just this group of espionage crime fighters fighting with each other, and you know their character names, but there's one Masked Marvel who comes in and you can't figure out who the real Masked Marvel is till the last episode, okay?
So this is a lot about a show. I'm assuming there's something real life happening
as
well.
Yes, that's the background that I needed to give you so that you would understand kind of what's going on. That no one knows, like everyone knows the character Bob Barton, all right, and that David Bacon played Bob Barton.
I love the 1940s.
But we don't know that he's...
And who is the Masked Marvel?
Right. Like we don't know. It's kind of like the Superman. Like we know Kent, we know that Clark Kent is Superman?
But it was, yes, because it's the way it was disclosed to us. This is a whole new media. I like it.
So David Bacon had previously...
Great name, and I want to know.
For sure.
I want to know, don't you, if Kevin Bacon is a descendant
I tried to find it. I couldn't find it.
I don't think Kevin's Bacon real name is Bacon.
No, I'm not sure. Either way, it's all delicious.
And so is he.
Yes. That's what I meant. I said it's all delicious.
That's so funny.
That is, I mean, what I implied there. David Bacon had previously signed an exclusive contract with Howard Hughes, who intended to cast him in his 1943 film, The Outlaws, as Billy the Kid.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. When found unsuitable after screen testing for the role, Howard Hughes decided to lend David Bacon for the role of Barton, all right, Bob Barton, in the Masked Marvel serial series. Anyway, as one of 4 lead characters who could potentially be the crime fighter. David Bacon would eventually be unmasked as the Masked Marvel. However, it was stuntman Tom Steele who was actually portrayed, who portrayed the character of the Masked Marvel on screen.
Okay,
because they were dangerous stunts, right?
Right.
Critics described the show as an exciting serial, one of Republic's best. Okay, that was the production company. And one enjoyed the sight of the hero jump into his own fights, all right? Instead of having the camera cut between the actor and stuntman, The final scene, where the masked Marvel removes his mask to reveal David Bacon as Bob Barton, was described as something of an anticlimactic event. Not least because it was clearly not the same actor who had played the part in the previous stunt scenes, okay? The stunt man, Mr. Steele, was built much different than David Bacon. And so all of these scenes where these crime-fighting stunts are happening, it's Mr. Steele, and they lead you to believe that it is Bob Barton, at the very end.
Right.
And it's like,
the small mouse of a man.
Yes, like, wait a second.
You're like,
okay.
Really? Republic, that wasn't believable.
Right. So
even in 1941.
When David Bacon was cast as Bob Barton, many believed the role was jinxed because 4 previous actors meant for the part had become injured or were unable to work. During filming of one of the serial's particularly big fight scenes, every actor was seriously hurt apart from David Bacon. And he would joke that, quote, "I'll probably get hurt going home in the car," end quote. The show would be notable in that it aired after David Bacon's death.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
David Bacon's a victim.
Yes. The details of which I will tell you about today because...
They're mysterious, right?
Yeah, he was murdered 2 months before the serial was released. It would be David Bacon's best remembered work, but it was his death that would garner public interest, along with the many secrets, mysteries, and sordid details of his sordid details of his private life that might well have graced the pages of the 1950s scandal and gossip magazine called Confidential.
Okay.
On the evening of September 12th, 1943. Now, remember I said that they filmed this serial between June and August 1943.
Right.
In a fairly rural area of Los Angeles. Rural. Yes, area of Los Angeles. I can't even say Los Angeles now. Yeah. Local resident.
In a country-ish version of the...
By the way, rural area, Los Angeles. My gosh. We live in Michigan, for fuck's sake.
But southern Michigan.
Sure. So that gives me all the right to pretend like I have a southern accent.
I don't know.
No. Local resident Lorraine Smith watched as a maroon-colored British automobile drove somewhat erratically along the south side of Washington Boulevard.
All of a sudden, that comment about me getting hurt on the way home is coming back.
In a car?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was fortuitous. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There was little besides bean fields and watermelon stands on this road. Okay. She couldn't help but notice that the car was weaving east on Washington Road. She would later say, quote, "I saw a little car wavering along the street. First, it nosed into the curb on the south side of the street. Then it went diagonally across the street over the north curb and into the bean field," end quote. As the car crashed, Wayne Powell, another neighbor on Harrison Street, went to the vehicle where he saw a man, quote, "in blue denim shorts and with the upper portion of his body bare," end quote.
So driving shirtless.
Mm-hmm. He staggered about 15 feet from the car with blood streaming from a wound on the left side of his back. Okay. So Mr. Powell said that he knelt beside him and the man whispered, "Please help me," 2 times before he succumbed to his injuries. He was just lying there between 2 beanstalks, kicking and squirming, and I told him to lie still and save his energy. Before he died, I asked him who had done this, but he couldn't say. So he just died in this stranger's arms.
Okay.
And good for Wayne Powell for being there and holding him through that. Los Angeles detectives soon arrived on the scene, and the items found inside the vehicle, the items found inside the wallet that were in the vehicle identified the victim as 28-year-old film actor Gaspar Griswold Bacon Jr., Bacon. He went by the stage name David Bacon. The car was registered to Bacon's wife, singer Greta Keller, who was about 5 months pregnant at the time. The couple lived at 8444 Magnolia Avenue and had just married the year before. Police began the investigation and tried to figure out how and why David Bacon had been murdered in what was an extremely unusual circumstances.
So this wasn't just a car accident. They determined immediately this was a murder.
Yeah.
Was it a gunshot to his back?
No, it was a stab wound.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
haven't
a clear,
heard this yet.
clear stab wound to
then somehow,
his left back.
And then he got in the car.
Right.
To escape whoever had stabbed him.
Right.
Clearly.
Well, we'll see. There's some theories.
Okay.
Yeah. The autopsy revealed that the wound was 5 inches deep and 3/4 of an inch wide and had probably been made of a commando-style knife, according to the police. Yeah. It's believed that from the position of the wound that he was struck without warning as he was leaning forward, they think in the car, possibly to close the door.
Someone was in the back seat.
Yeah. A preliminary medical report indicated that Bacon had been stabbed no more than 20 minutes before he jumped from his car. Okay. Dr. Frank R. Webb was the autopsy surgeon, and he said that the wound was 5.5 to 6 inches deep, had struck the lower sac of the heart, which caused a hemorrhage to the left lung.
Okay.
So he said a man with a wound like that might have lived 20 minutes. So that's how they deduced that this could not have been more than 20 minutes from the time that he was found, lying in the bean field.
Erratically driving and coming to a crash.
Yes. Yep. Police initially suspected that Bacon may have picked up a hitchhiker who stabbed him when he leaned forward, possibly to release the parking brake.
You really think a film star was going to stop and pick a hitchhiker up?
Yeah. Well, and this theory is later discarded when witnesses come forward with some information.
Okay.
So there's a third witness, Mrs. B. Watterson of 2335 Washington Boulevard. Mrs. B. Watterson. I love the names.
I love the older stuff too. I know it's just the 40s, but come on,
It is
older.
But still, yeah. I hate to tell you this, but
it's
is
almost 100 years ago. I know.
So she told police that she had passed the car just before the crash and had seen a man in a dark suit sitting next to the driver. United Press writer Frederick C. Offman quotes Mrs. Watterson in his story. She's quoted saying he's quoted saying she noticed them particularly, she said, because the driver appeared to be naked. His companion, she reported, was dark clad, end quote. So in other words, Mrs. B. Watterson was noticing herself a 28-year-old hunky man driving what she thought was naked.
At the very least, he was topless, and that was wow for then, right?
Yes.
But he had a companion.
That was dark, fully clothed. So that's what was struck as
seat?
in the passenger seat. That's what was
where
odd.
his injury would not lend the passenger to have committed
because
that crime.
It is his left side of his back, and this is an American car where everything is on the left side of the vehicle.
Right.
Okay, we're positioned on the left side of the vehicle. So in the theory that he was reaching forward to shut the door. If the dude was in the passenger side, he would have shanked him on the right.
Yeah, 100%. Or even crawling from the back in between the center console. You would have had to have reached around to the left when he was leaning forward.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, in what would further complicate matters, a man at a service station, so like a gas station, about a half a mile west of the crash told the police that he had seen a man and a woman in this very same car.
Okay.
It appeared the interior of the car was soaked heavily with blood, but there wasn't a drop on the exterior, supporting the idea that he had been stabbed while in the vehicle. There was a bathrobe found in the car that was soaked with blood, but there was not a knife mark. So investigators believed that Bacon hadn't been wearing it when he was stabbed, but used it to try to clean up, the blood. Or it was used. I shouldn't say he did, but
perhaps
it was.
Someone else could have.
So,
or were they wearing it when they stabbed him and then left it?
Right.
This is pre-DNA.
The Associated Press story described how, quote, the various parts of the interior bore many fingerprints. All were Mr. Bacon's. The upholstery was smeared with blood, and there were a few smears on the steering wheel. Officers said that Bacon's shorts were dry indicating that he had not been in the water, but said that some sand clung to them as though he had been on the beach. So not in the water, but on the beach.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Robbery was discounted as a motive when it was noted that there was $13 in his wallet that he had been wearing.
That's a notable amount of cash in the
1943, yeah. And he was wearing 2 valuable rings that were not taken. Also found inside the wallet was a key, the purpose of which would eventually be revealed by police, but wasn't initially. It was kind of a mystery. The only real clue was a crew neck sweater that contained several blonde hairs, which Mr. Powell had taken from the car and placed under Bacon's head while he lay dying. So remember the guy who, was trying to help him and whatnot? Yes. He found this sweater. He put it under David's head. Investigators found that the sweater was too small to have fit David Bacon and speculated that it might possibly have belonged to his killer. While police broke the news of her husband's death, Greta Keller became inconsolable and was given sedatives by David Bacon's brother, who was a doctor.
Okay.
She later told police that David had left the house at 8444 Magnolia Ave around noon on the day of the killing. However, neighbors said that the time that he left was about 2 p.m.
Oh.
So the police noted that David hadn't taken his 3 dogs, which he usually did when he went swimming, and theorized that he may have had an appointment with someone unknown to his wife.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know that 2 hours, I don't know. I could see myself being like, well, I thought it was about noon. Or even neighbors being like, well, I think it's about 2. I don't know.
Noon and 2's no big deal, I suppose. If it was in the morning, like was she saying that he left at like 8 a.m. or something and they said 2? Because that's a big difference.
Right. No, she's like, I think he left about noon. And the neighbors were like, no, he left at 2. So, okay. Greta says, quote, I wanted to go with him, but after consulting our physician by telephone, it was decided it would be better for me to stay home. David said
5 months pregnant in the 40s. You were a delicate sensibility.
I think she had some issues. Okay. I think I get to that, or I read it and forgot to put it in here, but I think she had been having some complications.
Okay, fair enough. And his brother's a doctor, so is that the doctor that they were consulting?
I'm not sure.
Interesting.
David said that he didn't want to go without me, and I began to write some letters in bed. I dropped off to sleep, and when I awakened, he was gone. Okay, so then do you really know he left at noon if you were asleep?
No, he was napping.
And
there's a thing called pregnancy brain.
Oh, absolutely. The initial theory made by the police was that he was killed by a hitchhiker, and this scenario was supported by statement from friends and acquaintances that said David Bacon habitually gave lifts to pedestrians whenever he was driving his car.
Oh, see, that's good to know, because I was under the assumption that a movie star is not going to pick somebody up.
Maybe he wouldn't. In order to solve the crime, detectives decided to delve into David's private life, his known associates, and his family history, with the possibility that somewhere they might find something that could explain why he ended up stabbed to death on the side of a Los Angeles rural road. David Bacon was born Gaspar Griswold Bacon Jr. on March 24th, 1914, to a prominent Massachusetts family. His grandfather was Robert Bacon, an ambassador to France and assistant secretary of state. His father was Army Lieutenant Colonel Gaspar Griswold Bacon of Dedham, Massachusetts, and he had served in the state senate, as a matter of fact.
It's an early East Coast American name from even pilgrimage. I mean, Bacon has been around for a long time.
Yep. His father had actually been lieutenant governor and law professor at Boston University.
Yep.
At the time of his death, Bacon's father was serving overseas, according to news reports. He had 2 brothers, William Benjamin Bacon, and a physician in Boston, who was the physician in Boston, by the way, and Robert Bacon, an Army Air Corps cadet.
Right. So they had one kid go into the military and follow in footsteps of the family. Another kid went on to be a doctor, and then clearly must be the youngest.
That went
on to become an actor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Always the youngest one gets to live out their dreams.
Well,
the other 2 have expectations to fulfill.
He, though, was he had notable accomplishments. So he grew up in Barnstable, Massachusetts, and attended the Deerfield Academy and Groton, and he graduated from Harvard in 1937.
See, but none of that surprises me. It would be expected of him to receive an Ivy League private school education and then an Ivy League collegiate degree. So he has a bachelor's of some kind from Harvard.
From Harvard.
He just didn't go on after that to go to the United States Military or Naval Academy or something, or to go on to become a doctor.
Right.
Instead, he moved to Cali.
Well, he appeared in amateur theatricals, as it was, so small films.
And theater was a big thing at Harvard at the time.
Yep. And he was an aviator who traveled extensively abroad.
So he had a pilot's license. He was an aviator.
He's done things. He just also was into, Hollywood films. According to the United Press story by Frederick C. Othman, David Bacon had been arrested once on charges of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, but the case had been settled to the satisfaction of the juvenile judge. So he bought a minor alcohol.
Yeah, possibly some chickie he was seeing.
Yeah. Because of the offense involved a minor, and there were details, it was speculated that the incident might have been plea bargained down from a more serious offense. Indeed, Bacon had been arrested in 1939 for the contribution of delinquency of a 15-year-old newsboy and was suspended on his promise to leave California for 3 years.
Was he trying to do something naughty with the newsboy?
Well, we're getting to it. David Bacon struggled to get his acting career to progress, and his acting credits included Someone to Remember and 10 Gentlemen from West Point, the latter of which required him to return earlier than court ordered to the state of California.
So he was going to commit a potential probation violation and come back to work.
No, he did, yes. The New York Daily News reporter, Peter Levins, wrote about the incident, and it was on September 9th, 1939, approximately 4 years before the day he was murdered, that Bacon had been accused by a young boy, Curtis Larson of Venza, of making improper advances to him. Mm-hmm. Levins wrote that Larson had told police that he had gone to the actor's home to collect $1 due for the newspapers, and that David Bacon had opened the door dressed only in the top part of his pajamas.
I love it when gentlemen open the door bottomless. Like it's a fucking invitation.
Right.
Can you imagine? I mean, let's put aside the fact that this was a young boy. But can you imagine being in a hotel room, delivering room service, and some fucking pervert opens the door without his pajama pants on?
I bet it happens so often.
All the time.
Because they think that it's just so amazing that everyone wants to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave this right here.
Right, exactly. Here you go.
No, I don't need the tip.
Serve yourself. Right. Keep your tip.
Keep the tip. To yourself, sir.
The newsboy said he invited me upstairs to see his paintings.
Oh, yeah. While his dick's hanging out?
Yeah. He said he was an artist at MGM Studio, and he wanted me to see his work.
Let me paint you like the French girls, Jack.
Paint you like your French girls. Instead, we got upstairs, and he
went.
And then he described the advance that happened on him. And Larson, the child, said, I told him my uncle was waiting for me, and he stopped acting that way at once and asked me if I could come back later in the day, which he did not do.
Okay.
David Bacon did admit the charge and told police that he didn't know why he acted this way. September 23rd, 1942, the gossip columnist Hedda Hopper. That sounds like a gossip columnist.
A hopper?
Hedda Hopper. That's her name, Hedda Hopper.
Hedda Hopper.
Hedda Hopper.
She was born to do her job.
Yes, she was. Or she created that name because she knew that name was perfect for that job.
I love it.
Hedda Hopper announced that David Bacon's engagement, or announced David Bacon's engagement to Australian singer Greta Keller. Keller was a singer who appears on the soundtrack of the film Cabaret.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. And had been in Los Angeles since at least 1933, appearing in the Pasadena Playhouse. She was born February 9th, 1903, and was 11 years older than David Bacon, and was often mentioned in the Times Society columns, and appears to have been more professionally successful than David Bacon was.
Clearly. Mm-hmm. And she married her a younger man.
She
Good
did.
for you.
I know. Good job, Greta.
I love Greta. She's amazing, but it also explains why her pregnancy may have been more sensitive. Him being a young man in his 20s,
yep.
late 20s.
Yes.
Clearly, she was in her early 40s. Mm-hmm. In 1940 something?
She's 11 years older than him. Mm-hmm.
Geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, for sure. That was. I mean, it is today.
Correct.
Definitely was then.
Yeah.
It's elderly pregnancy then. Although his success in the industry was far less than hers, David Bacon becomes a prominent and apparently wealthy family. Their marriage appeared to be genuine. However, many would wonder why a 28-year-old man had married a 40-year-old woman, really, and then he became pregnant, which was, by the way, first marriage for both of them, first child for both of them.
Okay.
Yes. So, Detective Lieutenants Harry Fremont and Lloyd Hurst came across Bacon's personal diary that appeared to be written in code. So,
no one writes their personal diary in code unless they are hiding something juicy.
Greta Keller knew of its existence, and it was reported by the Times that she, quote, she was never permitted to examine it, but knew that it was kept in the movie actor's bedroom, end quote.
Dude, this guy's in the closet having romances with men in a time that it wasn't acceptable.
For sure.
Marries a 40-year-old woman for sure.
For sure. This would seem to indicate that the married couple stayed in separate bedrooms.
Clearly.
Which they did, and that's not necessarily unusual for the time either.
No, it's not. But was the child actually even his?
I don't know. We don't find that out.
Okay.
This would seem to, excuse me, I almost read the same thing over again.
Oh,
I
like to hear it twice.
The coded diary was turned over to the cipher experts later the same day, and Greta Keller informed the lieutenants, Hurst and Fremont, that the couple had a private telephone notebook that might maybe give the clues into who her husband might have been meeting that day.
Oh.
She assisted detectives in eliminating the name of friends whose telephone numbers were entered into the book. So she helped identify other people whose numbers were of, like small value. Like these are just people that may or may not.
He probably
call.
talked to them. That's his brother. That's his other brother.
Yep. So the personal telephone book, though, held many numbers and cryptic jottings. Along with the coded diary, it was reported that police discovered that on August 31st, 1943, so this is before he died, David Bacon rented a studio apartment, described as very small, having a parlor, kitchen, and bath. It was at 8481 Kirkwood Avenue, okay? And it was from one of Dr. Charles Hedrick's, who lived nearby. That is who he rented the studio apartment from, Dr. Charles Hedrick's.
Okay.
The discovery of this secret hideaway a mile from his home solved one piece of the puzzle, that key that had been found in his wallet at the time of his death.
It was to his
apartment.
apartment.
It was to that studio apartment. Yes. Hendricks said that Bacon rented the apartment for a friend, while his wife, Greta Keller, told investigators that the lodgings were for a gardener. Greta's like, yeah, I know about that. We rent that out for our gardener.
Instead of a young male gardener.
Well, the New York Times reported that the Bacons didn't employ a gardener.
Did she know that?
I don't know that she did know that. Hendrickson.
He's all mowing the lawn really quick on the weekend going,
that's our gardener.
Get finished before the right. In the meantime, you got a boyfriend a street down.
Now, the lieutenants, of course, at first think that this studio apartment is for a woman.
Oh, yeah.
But they later learned that the tenant was a man.
Of course he was.
Oh, yeah. So September 10th, 2 days before the killing, he stopped. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, guys. Retract that. Hendricks, the doctor that he rented the studio apartment from, told the police that on September 10th, 2 days before the killing, he stopped by the apartment to collect the $20 rent. Oh, those were the days. While there, he encountered Bacon and a man whom he described as dark and slight, foreign-looking, and his face was flushed like he was angry. So it seems as though he possibly came upon a lover's quarrel, right? The landlord added, all the time I was there, he never spoke a word, nor did Mr. Bacon introduce me to him. Mr. Bacon did not have the rent money, but said he would put it in my mailbox Saturday, which he did. During a search of the apartment, police were initially baffled by the discovery of cigarette holders and towels at the apartment.
Why would that baffle them?
Well, hold on. We'll get to it. Further investigation revealed that a man by the name of Harry Frazee, described as a New York radio producer, had occupied the apartment for 4 days. By the time he was interviewed by police, Frazee was living on Sunset Boulevard, and he told the detectives that he found the apartment through an advertisement, and that he and Bacon had struck a deal in which he'd live at the apartment in return for several hours' work per day. Okay. When moving into the apartment, Frazee received help from Phyllis Parker, a writer for a radio show for Otto Kruger, the Otto Kruger radio show.
I'm sure in the 40s that was something popular.
It was, yep. Who said that she left her cigarette holders at the apartment. She had been assisted, essentially like somebody else within the industry, okay, to meet up for this job, this nice radio like spot. So it appears as though they're trying to pinpoint, is this apartment indeed a place for Mr. Bacon and his lovers to meet up?
Oh, yeah.
Men or women lovers, whatever. Or is this an apartment that he has that he is actually subletting to other people in the industry, and they're coming and going as well?
Both?
Right.
Could there be a little agreement for others in the industry that they can all use this place for their indiscretions?
Sure, right? Like very possible. But this is why it's convoluting the case of who the hell killed David Bacon.
Right.
Because we now have multiple people that have been recently in this apartment.
Which is now where they believe he came from when he was stabbed.
He had that key on him. Yes. Yeah. And it was like within a couple miles of his home.
Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many suspects.
A routine search of David Bacon's belonging revealed a man named Glenn Irwin Sham's telephone number. Okay. And Mr. Sham explained that he had answered an advertisement for the positioner of gardener. All right.
Which is why he told his wife they were employing a gardener.
According to the Times, he made an appointment with David Bacon, who met him and took him to the Kirkwood Avenue apartment, later returning him then to Hollywood to drop him off. A subsequent story reports that Sham was an asserted Navy deserter. Like, no, they knew each other from the Navy days.
Oh.
Okay. Yes.
He was in the Navy?
Before, yes. I had mentioned that before. That he served. Yeah. He served.
He went to the private school in Harvard and then he served in the Navy before.
For like 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. Mr. Sham has a wife, and his wife said on the day of the murder, he was with her. Okay.
So that scapegoat didn't work.
No. It was never explained why Sham was responding to an ad to work as a gardener, which provided live-in accommodation quarters if he resided with his wife. We don't know. Authorities had previously stated that
lover from the Navy,
right, that David Bacon was stabbed while he was leaning over, as if to open the door or release a parking brake. But then forensic experts said that he was facing the killer while leaning forward. So think about that. If I'm in front of you and I lean forward and you're right-handed, Megan, you're going to stab me on my left side.
Yeah. But am I going to stab you in the back?
If I'm leaning forward to pick something up, something like that.
Or in an embrace.
Right. Or if I'm attacking you, I'm coming at I'm trying to tackle you like by the waist and you've got a knife, you're going to come down on my left side if you're right-handed.
Okay.
The only clue present in David Bacon's car was the mysterious sweater, which Wayne Powell, who saw Bacon crash into the bean field, told police that he had taken from the car and put under his head while he lay dying. It was described by the Times as a heavy navy blue sweater, as a crew neck type knitted for Navy and Merchant Marine seamen.
Oh.
Yeah. Police Captain Thad Brown of the Homicide Bureau told the Times it is logical to assume that whoever stabbed Bacon departed so hastily that he left his sweater behind. It certainly does not belong to Mr. Bacon. In fact, it is much too small. It is determined that whoever owned the sweater was about 140 pounds, 5'8", and had blonde hair, based on strands of blonde hair found around the neck of the sweater. In order to track down the manufacturer, homicide detectives Fremont and Hearst visited a variety of civilian and military suppliers and learned that the sweater was commercially made in the East about 5 years ago. Police later told the Times that the sweater was the type given to a letterman at a beach high school 5 years earlier. So about 1938.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would he have been at Harvard then? Or no?
No, because he was 28.
Maybe in the military at that point.
Yeah,
because he would have graduated college around the age of maybe 22.
Mm-hmm.
And then around that time, he could have potentially been in the Navy.
But this wasn't his sweater. It's much too small to have been David
No, what I'm
Bacon's.
tracking it back to is if it was in the East from somebody that he was associated or affiliated with, where would he have been 5 years ago when that person accumulated the sweater? And if they were potentially, and he's from the East Coast, this is maybe somebody he knew from home.
For sure, right. The other thing that they found was 3 little feathers, which resulted in police speculation that the killer had possibly been employed at a poultry market or on a farm.
Or recently in a bed.
I thought that too. Like, I was like,
Feather,
wait a
down,
second.
comforters
Down,
and
right.
pillows. They used to stuff everything
I
with
know.
feathers then.
I thought the same thing.
Well, not everything.
On September 20th, 1943, it was reported by the Associated Press that the Los Angeles Examiner had obtained evidence that David Bacon had received a threatening letter demanding money shortly before he was found dead from the stab wound. Reporters working for the Examiner located Blakely C. Patterson, an orchestra singer and actor, as well as friend of David's, who stated that he had talked to David by telephone shortly before he was found staggering from his automobile. Patterson said Bacon had told him about the threatening letter. He told me that he received a note demanding money. When Mr. Bacon called me last Sunday, the first thing he said was, "Pat, I received a threatening note from..." The newspaper article omitted the name. Okay? Demanding money. "I don't know what to make of it. Can I see you about it?" He definitely seemed nervous and worried, and I got the distinct impression that he was going to meet this man. Finally, he said he'd call me the next day. So.
Okay.
Yes, Blackmail. And of course, he did not get to call him the next day because he was
died.
dead. So essentially, what happens is this person who says that he was, he was 22 years old, says that he was contacted, by him saying, "Oh, I received this threatening letter," or whatnot. That was all a hoax. It was just this 22-year-old trying to get himself in the papers, and so that he could be recognized. He thought it was going to get him into films that way. It was a complete hoax. All right. On September 20th, 1943, 8 days after the death of her husband, Greta Keller went into labor and delivered a stillborn.
Oh, yeah. She was way too early.
Yes.
And she was 40.
40. Mm-hmm. In her later years, Greta would disclose that David Bacon was homosexual and that she was a lesbian, and that they had agreed to leverage a marriage. This arrangement partially served for what she referred to as a beard, which allowed them both to maintain a facade of a committed marriage, as both were pursuing and establishing film careers. The word homosexuality rarely, if ever, appeared in the Times during the era, and even in other newspapers found it too taboo of a subject, of course.
Explains why she was 40 and had never been married.
Yes, exactly. There are possible hints that Bacon's homosexuality inclinations in the past, and there are many photographs that depict him of wearing women's clothing as part of his earlier acting career, which may point to a potential drag queen, like
cross-dressing.
Yeah.
Sure. Doesn't always mean you're homosexual, by the way.
No,
but in his
not
case,
at all.
It clearly was. Like I called it early on.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Almost makes me wonder, and we apparently will never know what happened here, is he tended to act inappropriate in situations where his sexuality maybe got the best of him. Okay. Didn't make good choices. Clearly had potentially assaulted a 15-year-old boy at some point in time. Did he make an advance on the wrong person? Could this potentially, in the 1940s, just be a situation where David flirted with the wrong man and they reacted inappropriately?
Yeah. At the beach, and he ran to his car and got in his car.
Right.
And that sweater maybe was his from 5 years earlier when he was at Harvard, right?
Or he was given...
And he just had it.
Or he was picking up a hitchhiker, giving him a ride, made a sexual advance, and then the guy took off without a sweater, which happened to be made out east. I don't know.
Very possible.
Again, he could have met a planned lover, and it was a lover scorned type of thing that happened.
You won't leave your wife for me. I want to live with you. Very possible. By October 16th, 1943, press coverage of his death had ceased, and the investigation went cold. I mean, that's only a couple of months. With few witnesses and no credible suspects, police had few clues as to why David Bacon was killed or by whom. On November 6th, 1943, The 12-chapter film serial, The Masked Marvel, was released by Republic Pictures, featuring the then-deceased actor Bob Barton, who would be revealed in Chapter 12 as the man behind the mask and the hero. In May 1944, the case was recapped by crime writer Peter Levins, a reporter for the New York Daily News. He wrote that Greta Keller had told Detective Captain Thad Brown and Lieutenant Lloyd Hurst that she and her husband had quarreled on the morning of his death because he wanted to make love to her and she did not feel in the mood, but then left the house at about 2 p.m. saying he was going to the beach for a swim. I don't believe that. Greta later says we were both homosexual.
Well, they were clearly having sex for the purpose of attempting to create a family.
Well, yeah, but that would already been done. She was 5 months pregnant.
Right. So I don't see them having sex for joy at that point, unless he was bisexual.
Very possible. Yeah, very possible.
But again, it doesn't seem about right. And if she especially was having a troubled pregnancy at that point anyway, she wouldn't have been having sexual intercourse. She would have been advised early on not to. No. That's why we had a lot of affairs in the 40s, because women who were pregnant were so, so fragile.
Oh, fragile.
That you couldn't do the other F word with them.
Now they can do CrossFit.
Yeah, up until the day you deliver.
Right,
but don't, after you can't, well, plus, the baby might feel it.
Oh, it might.
If you have the intimacy.
That's right.
The intimate
right at the top of its head.
And then you want to say, sir, I'd like to see that, because you don't realize how impossible that actually would be. Exactly. You think you're going to tap him on the forehead with that? I beg to differ.
Allow me to show you all the ways that's not possible.
Correct. And we'll start with a tape measure, sir.
Exhibit 1. Oh, God. I agree with you. I think what happened here is that he possibly hit on the wrong person or really upset a lover. I think it's very obvious he was probably going to meet somebody that, even Greta didn't want in the papers, because at that time when police are investigating this, she doesn't want to tell anybody she's homosexual either.
No.
She's still trying to establish a film career.
It makes me wonder.
A music career.
With all of these other individuals involved at this rental, potentially other people in the industry in some way, shape, or form, I seriously think it almost was some type of a safe house for people who
I agree
were living on the edge. Other lesbians and
living in times where society wouldn't allow them.
Right. So there was a spot that you could use to meet up or whatever.
I agree. It's another unsolved case for you.
Good Lord. Would you like...
I didn't find a whole, there's not a ton of coverage on it. And so I thought,
no, because
it's kind of fun to bring to listeners.
One, but you brought us some movie star scandal and, there was a ton of it then.
And I don't know, just how tragic. I think he probably could have lived from those injuries had it not just punctured that lower chamber of his heart and bled into his lungs.
Don't you think it's strange, though, that the farmer that found him, he asked him who did this to him, and he didn't know. So is it possible he didn't?
I know.
Or would he just not have said?
Right.
I don't know. That
or
part,
was just too out quick. Of it to be able to even say. But.
It does lend itself, though, to it being somebody he tried to pick up.
Yeah.
Instead of a scorned lover, because he would have been able to say something.
Because he did say twice, please save me, or something.
Please help me. Please help me. Who did this to you? I didn't know.
Right.
So,
well, you have a brain bath for us?
I do.
You've been bathing me all day.
I have been. I'm going to try to read the actual article, the actual obituary, but I have a funny, I guess apparently hilarious obituary that went viral.
Oh, okay.
It went viral. It was posted back in June of 2023, so just a year ago.
Oh,
good.
I am so sorry, you guys.
You scared me.
I did not mean to hit the microphone. I am a disaster.
If laughter is this is from Eubank, Kentucky.
Okay.
If laughter is the best medicine, then the family of James Lovelace will be healed in no time. Mr. Lovelace passed away on Wednesday, and his son wrote an obituary that is not to be missed. He would have liked for people to talk about the fun stuff, so I talked about some of the interesting aspects of his life, Rocky Lovelace said from the field next to his sister's home in Eubank. This is the same field that'll host the quote-unquote funeral on Saturday. No funeral, we're having a barbecue, Rocky said, before noting that his father preferred to be cremated. Rocky was told by the people at the Pulaski Funeral Home that his obituary generated more page views for them than the home has ever had before, and it is getting a lot of attention on social media. In the obit, he talked about his father's passion for fried food, steak, chili cheese dogs, beer, cold or room temperatures, cars, swimming, poker, and women.
I have no idea why he died.
All of those women's names, those are all women that really happened, Rocky said. In the obituary, while listing surviving family members, Rocky labeled himself as being James's second favorite son. He was couching a hint of sadness in the silliness. It was an insecurity I always had. I always felt like I was the second favorite, even though I wasn't, he explained. The obit is 5 paragraphs long, and it's funny from top to bottom. And according to Rocky, it's all true. But as he spoke, one last thing became very obvious. The last line of the obituary, the one that reads, "He will be moderately missed," was a blatant lie. "Yeah, I'll miss him a lot," Rocky said while fighting back a lot of emotion. I'm going to try to find it. Oh, my God. So first of all, this is James.
Oh, my God. All of those things that he listed that he loved, you can tell by that one picture.
Okay.
I love him.
James Lovelace, March 11th, 1963 to June 14th, 2023, Somerset. Born and raised in Kentucky in 1963, a state that has been recently leaning toward more liberal values, we might add, Jamie, a divorcee, father, grandfather, and proud owner of a few lots in the trailer park, had enough and up and died on us on June 14th in order to avoid another presidential stolen election mishap in the near future. As a gluttonous eater of fried foods and snack cakes, as well as the occasional chili cheese dog, James tried in vain to give up the ghost by clogging his arteries and having a stroke in 2015.
Oh my God.
His twin boys, Rocky and Rodney, had other plans and made him go to the hospital. While waiting in the ER at the hospital, he was heard saying, "Let's make a break for it," only to be heard by one of the hospital staff and forced to go through the procedure. He wasn't too excited about the prospect, but went anyway. On many occasions in life, James was seen in his backyard at the trailer park during the early morning hours of the morning, hammering beers, standing over country-style ribs and yelling, "It's got a head like a cat on it," while nearby neighbors would peek out their windows bearing looks of disgust and amazement as his party guests were slurring remarks about needing to speed up his cooking style. "We've been here since 5 o'clock, they would say. "I got work in the morning." We don't know if he was married, but he definitely was a ladies' man. There was Kathy, Mary Lou, Tammy, Deborah, Carrie, Tina, etc., etc. "It's the bones," he told us proudly, pointed his skinny, pasty white legs. "Women love a good shin." We think he might even have some females waiting for him on the other side. Jamie loved his family more than anything else in the world except ice cold bush, room temperature bush, T-bones, New York strip, prime rib, shrimp, swimming, poker, hatchback, Mustang GTs, tank tops, Kentucky men's basketball, and his personal copy of Eddie Murphy's Raw. He leaves behind his second favorite son, Rocky, and Lizeth Lovelace of Arizona City, Arizona, his favorite son, Rodney Lovelace of Science Hill, Kentucky, a younger brother, Joey, and unofficial daughter, Melissa and Coy Vance of the trailer park, as well as a pair of old boxers which have Buttweiser, the King of Rears, printed on the design. He will be moderately missed. Pulaski Funeral Home is honored to assist the family with its arrangements. And that is his obit. The comments are fantastic. You know, I'm sorry for your loss, the way you describe him. It sure sounds like he was a great dad and friend. Sounds like he lived his life, but left us to fear for the next election. You've got that right. I didn't know you, but you better watch over me. You seem like a cool angel. By the way, at least it wasn't a cocaine overdose. Also, watch over my fried foods and don't let no one take them away. Yeah,
That's a comment from the funeral home?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then somebody in their beautiful infinite wisdom says, "Rest in peace, James," but they signed it Donald J. Trump. Oh, hell.
That's funny.
Yeah, loved it.
Also, that dude sounds like he could be a neighbor.
I know Jay. I know him. We both know him.
We definitely know
Yeah,
him. Also, there is a Pulaski not far from us.
Pulaski
He
Township.
would fit right in
Clearly.
with that Pulaski. So
Absolutely.
I'm just hearing the name Pulaski draws in a certain population.
Oh, my
And I
God.
love it.
Well,
Love it.
there you are.
Thank
you. I like an old-timey case, and you got a funny
once
obit.
In a while,
so.
I'd love a good, funny obit where
because
I want mine
yes.
to be like that. Yes,
we're in sync today. We want somebody to write our obit in that way.
I do. All right. Well, thank you all so much for hanging in and listening to us today, and we hope that you keep it curious
and keep listening.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.